Okay, it is 11 a.m. on Thursday, the 12th. Measure R meeting, Oversight Committee meeting. I don't know if we're going to have enough people for a quorum.
Is 3 enough?
Okay, well, let's have roll call.
Committee Member Redwine,
Here.
Committee Member Sleddy,
Here.
and Committee Member Jones.
Here. Okay, do we have any public comment? Is there anybody on the internet that has any comment? Okay, on. Item number 3, Measure R 2425 Fiscal Annual Report. A is to review and discuss the annual report. You guys get a chance to read the report? I know you did.
I did.
I read it a lot.
It was quite a report. Debbie worked on it, and we appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, she's been real good at it.
And that was extensive. A lot of work went into that. And it's really impressive, I must say, how much Measure R funding has gone into supporting our community.
It has. It's done a lot to help with a lot of different things.
So I did have a question, and I know we talked on the phone about the leftover monies for salaries from the sheriff's department, and I had called you and they had board approval. I think in the future it'd be, I kind of was surprised, and I think other people were, because we were always under the impression if it wasn't used for salaries that it went back. And you explained, I would like it if we just had a heads up that this was done and the money, I mean, I just happened to, going through the reports that, I mean, I get it that they have the ultimate decision, but that was not what I was under the impression, that the money went back. And I think that they bought things that they needed. I get it, but I think we were a little bit blindsided, or at least I was. I was like,
Well,
wow.
we were all blindsided.
So I just, if we just got a heads up and say, hey, by the way, this happened, I'd be like, yeah, that's great, but I would just appreciate a heads up.
Yeah, the action was only taken Tuesday, and it actually didn't even dawn on me until I was going over the agenda about a half an hour ago to make sure I was prepared for this meeting. And I looked at number 5 and realized that the board had taken action on the 10th for that item. And literally, all it is to say that there is gap funding in this project and that those funds are available if the gap funding is needed. The project is going forward with or without it. If we have to go out to financing, we will do that also.
Right.
The project's moving forward. We have to find the funding. That funding has been set aside for vital services in this community, which one of them is identified as jail operations. And so this is jail operations. This is badly needed. It's been needed for decades. And so this is a number 1 priority capital improvement project for this county. And so the board recognizes that. They've already set aside capital improvement funds. So this funding may not even be needed, and it may all not be needed for sure. And it could be directed towards other projects like the Pike Field project that's currently going through the process of getting funding. So there are a number of projects, Veteran Services Building, we're looking at hopefully getting funding for that as well to bring it up for ADA compliance. So there's a number of capital projects that are currently in the works that Measure R fits, but this is just something that's been the number 1 priority by the board and by this community for a long time. And so it was just the timing of the 2 agendas didn't work. We were hoping to have resolved this in
No,
May
I'm
when
not-
we had our
I'm
agenda.
She's not talking about the last item on the agenda. She's talking about
The funding
The
that
funding
was
for the-
used to buy the,
for the new inmate clothing and property vacuum sealer.
Huh?
That was
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I
12,000.
thought you were talking about the other
That's
jail.
No, no,
That's
no,
what we're
I'm
talking
not-
about. We're
no,
talking about
no.
that. And, we know about the camp antenna. That was an emergency repair. That's fine. We were already, at our last meeting, you apprised us of that. And what we're saying is that for the, for that other $12,000, we could have just gotten a heads up saying, hey, that kind of blindsided us.
Yeah,
That's all
no,
we're
that's
saying.
fine if you'd like to have us send
Yeah.
notice if something like that happens. A department who is eligible for Measure R funds can still come to the board, especially when there's a finding
Right.
of something. And the grand jury had found this to be an issue, which is why he brought it forward as an emergency item also. We will hardly ever bypass this committee. I will do everything I possibly can not to bypass this committee
Right. I
and
mean,
bring
that-
everything to you. But if it's brought forward by the sheriff, especially as an emergency item, it's typically going to go to the board.
Yeah,
And that's all fine, that's all fine and good, you know, you have another emergency, that's great. It's just that, you know, we just kind of like to know.
Yeah, noted. I can send an email to the group.
And that's all she's mentioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. No, I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. Now, other than that, is there any other corrections? that
I
need to
don't,
be done?
I think that, I know that you and Kylie both kind of always look at it for me to, and I had some questions, and Dave answered some, and you answered some, so I, personally, I think it's okay,
I
but
think
I'm the
it's-
one
I
that
think
wrote
it's
it,
great.
so, you know.
I think it's good. It is.
And I think it's great, but I just have, this is only my second meeting, so I unfortunately don't feel like I have any input because I'm so new.
Oh, you have input.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
My input was
please
that
don't-
it was a lot of work. And I was impressed by the extensive report.
Yeah.
So going with the board meeting, Dave, you're just gonna go to answer questions. I know we kind of just,
I'll try to make it, yeah, and
You
I'll
know.
go there to answer any questions,
okay,
like I always do.
yeah. Well, I know when we started, it was a pretty short report, and you
Yeah.
kind of read it to them, and then we decided as it started growing,
Yeah,
maybe it's better
yeah,
to
as
let
it's
them
growing and
read it and
growing,
ask.
I don't need to be up there on the bully pulpit for a half hour reading the whole thing.
There you go.
So,
And like I said, again, I will include this report with the recommended budget so they're aware of it. And if I'm hearing correctly, you guys are approving it without any changes?
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I need a motion
I
to,
make a motion to approve the Measure R 24-25 fiscal year annual report.
okay, need a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Oops. Okay. We took care of section B under this annual report. All right, we're moving on to item number 4. Discuss the items related to Measure R transactions use tax. It's an update of the total cost of all Measure R projects were completed and positions were filled. Did we get to look, did everybody get a chance to look at the financials?
Yeah,
yes.
I didn't see anything
Did you see anything that was,
stuck out to me.
yeah,
No.
I didn't see anything that stuck out to me either, so.
One thing I tried to break out for the committee is just to identify the ongoing costs, annual ongoing costs, and then the one-time costs. So you can see like what funds have been committed in perpetuity and what funds are, just should be one and done. So they'd be available in the next year.
Right. Yeah, I like how this was all set up this time too. It was a lot easier to read.
This was easier to follow, yeah. I mixed it up for you guys, keep you guessing.
Yeah.
Keep us on our toes. Job security, we need you to explain it to
Yeah.
us.
I just wanted to point out, like I said, I identified and itemized all the expenses and then what would be like an ongoing cost versus one time. So kind of as the last meeting, there was some questions about, future funding and having funds available for other projects that may come up. So I just want to show some of these things, a lot of that money is going to be, spent this year, but next year it would be available.
Right.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions on the financials?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, well, let's go to item B under that, which is to try and create a standardized form.
Yeah, I think I'm the one that suggested that, because it's, some of them write amazing reports, but I found that I really had to dig through them to get numbers, and I'm just thinking it would be probably easier for them and for us if we had a standard form that we have them fill out about what projects they completed the prior year, and then one for what they want the next year. So when we do the report, I think it would be a lot easier.
Yeah, like
For
year
us
over year.
Yeah,
thing.
so it would be two pieces of paper basically, and I think it would make it simpler for the staff, and then it would be easier for us when we do the report that all the numbers are right there instead of reading 2 or 3 pages and try to pick out the numbers.
Yeah, because sometimes the numbers are buried. You miss them.
Yeah, you do. You have to really.
I've missed them a couple of
sometimes-
times.
Yeah, and they're good reports.
Oh, they're great reports, but
And
sometimes find
I
the
think,
numbers
is
is
it
tough.
Heidi? Oh my God, her reports are
Yes.
awesome. She's like, she's the best. But, you know, it's a lot of information.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a great suggestion, and we actually already started working on the forms, just because we thought it was a good idea, and then just waiting for direction from this committee. But it's something that we've been working on with other things that we do on an annual basis. We're trying to get it more of a formalized process, and they're called, I think it's called Cognito forms, and so it actually records the documents also and keeps them in a database, and so they're available, so you don't have to save them, cut them, paste them, do all those things on an annual basis, so it kind of tracks them that way as well. So we thought it was an excellent idea, and so we just started playing around with some drafts, just in case you guys did give us direction that we were kind of out in front of it. And so
Oh, good.
the B and C are kind of a similar item if you want to take them together. One would be for the annual request, and one would be for the annual reports.
Yeah,
So I think it's an excellent idea.
yeah, that's,
Will they be fillable forms?
Yes.
Oh, good.
It'll basically have certain fields that are required of the departments, and then an explanation field also.
That's
And so they can
perfect.
still provide their narrative, but each of the documents will be consistent with the header as
That's
far as the
perfect.
information.
yeah, I think that'd be great. That way it'll make it easier for us
Yeah,
to
it's
go over
great.
the numbers of the reports.
I think it'll be
and-
easier
and-
for them.
And easier for them and easier for us.
Yeah,
So is there currently a request for funding form too?
there is not. It's just a memo from the department. So it's similar to the actual reports, and they can vary by department. It's usually on their letterhead and a request from the department head, but it could vary how they're presented. And the
Yeah,
information
yeah.
is provided as backup. There's a requirement that it has to show, the justification for it as far as the benefit to the community, why it's a vital service, how it's not supplanted by their funding, things like that. So there is guidelines included in the resolution for what the request needs to include, but there's no set form.
No, I like the idea. So at some future meeting, we could have a draft maybe. We
Yeah,
could go
absolutely.
over-
Because this is, we're at the end of this year, so it will be the
Oh, right.
following
Right.
year.
The following year.
So absolutely. Once we get a draft prepared, then we'll make sure we get that out.
So
and
you
on the
didn't
next-
have that done yesterday, huh?
No. No.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, I think it'll save a lot of headaches for everybody
Yep.
further down the trail.
I don't know if somebody wants to make that motion to give us direction to prepare those.
Okay, so we need a motion for that?
That'd be helpful, just
Okay.
because it's staff time.
I need a motion to
Develop the,
have staff develop a standardized form. for-
okay, I'll make it. I make a motion to direct staff to create a standard measure our funding request and an annual measure our funding report.
Report. Okay,
And I'll second that.
okay. All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Carries. All right. Now on to number 5. Kind of a little bit of a moot point, but what I was going to suggest before they made their deal of Board of Supervisors was to maybe do something that was like they did with the airport, where the county fronted the money for the remodeling of the airport and got paid back. My thought is to provide a guarantee of $5 million from Measure R if the county would go ahead and do that, go ahead and front the money for the remodel, and then Measure R on an annual basis would cut a check for whatever amount we thought we could get away with. That way we could keep some money in the coffers. That way it's a guaranteed loan. You kind of see what I'm trying to go with that.
I see what you're saying. and-
That way they don't, that way they don't attack the whole fund at once. Because I know there's other capital projects that need to be done. I know that the field over here needs to be fixed. I know the roof on the VFW needs to be repaired.
It's actually fixed,
Oh, it is?
done.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay. But there's still other projects, other capital improvements that can be made with the monies, and I'd like to try and see if we can keep money in the account as a backup, so when another capital improvement comes and you can get matching funds, we have the money there. Does that make sense?
Well, keep in mind that this project is probably a year and a half to 2 years out. So Measure R tax is not a finite fund. It's going to change annually as tax comes in.
Right.
And so this is not really a loan situation where you're going from one fund to the next. It's general fund discretionary funds, and this is a vital service that's been identified by the community and the board. And so I understand your mechanism from the airport to the county, which the county does own the airport as well, but it was a completely different fund. It's a completely different agency, and they do have their own board because it's a JPA. With internal county funding and loaning and borrowing is a lot more complicated, and Clint can probably touch on that a lot better than I can. And there's no intention of drying out this fund that's going to be getting the annual revenue of hopefully in the neighborhood of $1.6 to $2 million per year.
Right.
The capital improvement funds that are set aside are in excess of $2 million already. And so the fund balance in Measure R is already more than the $10 million needed. So by the time the project comes around, you're probably going to be looking at closer to, $2.5 million that would not be needed for that project anyway. See what I'm saying? The funding is going to be replenished regardless of
Right.
of a mechanism.
Yeah, because like I said, I don't mind spending all the money. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather spend the money on all the projects that the county needs done. I'm sure there's a laundry list of those projects.
There are definitely more projects than funding.
Right. But my thought is try and we prioritize the sheriff's department because that's what they need, and then have money to do other improvements, do other smaller projects that the people of the county can see that are being done in conjunction with what's going on with the sheriff's department.
So what was the recommendation from the board on the amount?
Let me look. There was not an amount, which is what I was trying to explain a little bit to the committee last time. The sheriff's request was very specific, but when we had initially talked about it, it was going to be kind of an open-ended, if the funding is needed, if it's available, because all the Measure R funding that's available is always determined by the auditor controller anyway. The resolution even says that it's based on available resources. So if the resources are not there, it wouldn't even be brought forward to this committee other than saying, do you support it when the funding is available type thing. But the resolution limits any kind of spending with the funding available based on the auditor controller's finances. And so the actual action of the board, I think it just said to authorize the use of capital improvement funds and unallocated Measure R funds for gap funding for the jail project. And I'm kind of summarizing. It's not the actual item that was on the agenda. I think there was somebody here from the committee, at least one of the members, if not two, for the presentation for the board action. And again, we didn't know which way the board was going to go with that, which is why the overlap of the agendas, it was included on both agendas. And which is why I tried to get this passed by this committee in May, which of course you guys had a lot of questions, which is great. You guys had a ton of questions about the project. That's great. And hopefully the information that was provided with the agenda is helpful. And there's even a diagram of the project that I can provide to you all if you'd like to see the sections of the jail. It was included in the presentation as well. I realized it wasn't part of this agenda today, but it's something that if you wanted to see it, it shows the different locations in the jail that are being remodeled.
I watched the presentation. I also just went and did a tour of the jail, and I don't think any of us have any doubt that the money is vital. It needs to go to this. I think what the concern is that it was already approved, which questions why, I'm wondering why use the this committee if it's already going to be bypassed, because I'm really busy. And so, but I also understand that, it needs to move forward. We all agree that these are vital services that Measure R funding should be used for, but our concern is draining the fund, and it sounds like that's not going to happen.
No,
because it replenishes. So I appreciate Sheriff Scott putting in his request up to 75%. I don't know if that's valid or if that's something, we need to consider, but I know, what I'm hearing is the concern is not using all of the funds for this project, so we have some in place in case they're needed for other projects or other emergencies, situations that come up.
And I can actually include that in my recommended budget report. The reason this had to go forward now, the last budget meeting we have for the recommended budget is the 24th. And again, because of the overlap and the timing of it, for the board to approve the recommended budget that includes the capital improvement funds, it had to be approved. And I was hoping if they didn't do it on the 10th and you guys recommended, I could get it into the 24th. But they did make the action on the 10th. And that was kind of like I said, it was already included in this presentation because we thought that the committee would be given direction in May. And so the timing just didn't work out because you rolled it over to the next meeting. And so it was not an intentional, let's go around the committee, let's not consider what they're talking about. And I can include all of your concerns in my report that you would like to see some kind of level of contingency into the fund on an annual basis and that it's not exhausted on any one project. I don't mind writing that in the report, and that's a recommendation from this committee.
So now that the Board of Supervisors, it moves up to you and Clint to decide the funds? Is that where it goes next? Are you the finance?
I'm the budget officer, yes.
So then you will make that decision and take it back, or your recommendation and take it back to the board?
The board's already made the decision. They made the decision last year with capital improvement funds, and they've already actually honestly allocated Measure R. Each year that budget shows infrastructure, that's where that money has been allocated. The budget we give to you guys every single year shows all of the positions that are funded, but then it shows capital improvements and infrastructure. So that money has technically already been designated by this committee and by the board for that use. This just specifies a project.
Okay.
Because it's been the priority project identified by the board and this committee, actually.
So, so they did define how much is going, residual
No.
funds?
There is not.
Then who decides that?
It says
Because I thought you
unallocated.
would.
It's based on the need. Nobody knows exactly what the need of the gap funding is that's going to be needed. And we may
okay.
get funding from the state.
It's
The gap funding
available.
could be very minimal. So what
Okay.
they did is just they authorized the work group, which is part of a TAC committee, to work with our architect to know that funding is available. If you
Okay.
look at a construction process and they say, where's your funding for this? Especially the state, they're saying, where's your funding? Do you have any match funding for this? We'll give you $4 million, but where's your million? Or where's your 2 million? The board now has authorized us to say it's right here.
Okay,
And so that's kind of what it boils down to, is that we have that backup to show the board's authorized local funding to match state and federal funding that we will hopefully get to fund the rest of this project.
makes sense. So, how much, is this all state funding or is there federal funding involved in this?
It's the majority federal funding right now. There's-
So this is my concern. As I scroll the internet, there was a report put out by, I don't know who it was, the DOJ, that listed all the sanctuary cities and counties, and we are listed as a sanctuary county. And President Trump has been very clear about pulling funding for those counties, and that got my attention. Is that true? We're a sanctuary county?
There's been no formal action on that. We have no idea where that list came. Our federal advocate has no idea how that list was generated. It was sent to us to let us know and make us aware of it. And we let the board aware of it also. I think it's every county in California except 4 or something like that. And we have no idea what the criteria was, or some counties have actually gone on record and said we are a sanctuary county.
Because I know
Our
Crescent
county has
City
not
isn't
done that.
on there, so
Yeah.
apparently they took some action.
I don't know if they did or
Okay.
not.
Well, that concerned me because I think he's going to be true to his word on funding, so that kind of worries me, but, okay.
Yeah, they've said through this process that if legislature has designated the funding, awarded the funding, which we have an award, a signed agreement, that the president cannot rescind that funding. That's been their action so far, and the judges have said the same thing. The
Okay.
courts have put stops on his executive orders because they're saying he can't do it legally.
Okay.
So,
Well, I always trust the politicians to tell me they're going to do something, but okay.
yeah. No, I said it's the judges, it's the courts that are stepping in now and putting a stop to his executive orders. It's not politicians.
Okay.
But yeah, you never know. It's completely uncertain when you're talking about federal government.
Okay.
Well, I also would recognize that, wow, what a big project, and it's going to be a fiasco. And just seeing all of the things they have to sort out with staff and, through the process, but it's definitely something that is needed, and I'm really excited to see the sheriff's department, the whole jail get remodeled. It's a really big thing for Del Norte County. So I think that these funds being used for this is extremely vital, so.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I again, like I said, it will help to express your feelings about keeping some kind of contingency in the fund with the board and through the recommended budget. So that's not a problem. And then it'll be memorialized in the recommended budget report that they adopt.
Okay. Any other comments?
Nope, I think that's all I had.
Okay. Guess that's it then, right?
That's it.
Short and sweet.
Short, sweet,
Yeah.
to the point.
Efficient.
Yep. Okay,
Thank you all very much.
all righty.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the meeting. Meeting ended at 11:20.